Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Let me tell you something. The circle is complete, folks. Microsoft and Xbox have finally done it. They climbed up top of the mountaintop and they came down with 2 stone tablets and they laid. I'm sorry, I couldn't help it. Microsoft, Xbox, they've needed a hit badly. I know you're going to say Starfield is the game of the generation, but I didn't find it to be as good as past Bethesda type RPGs, and certainly nowhere near the GOAT that is Skyrim. I'm worried about the next Elder Scrolls game though, but let me tell you, I heard Indiana Jones. I instantly thought third person. You did too. You know you did. You thought Tomb Raider. You thought Uncharted. You thought a large open world running around, fighting, using the whip, swinging, all that stuff. But it would have been just like those games because those games are just like Indiana Jones movies. They borrowed heavily from Indy. So it was time for Indy to take back. But what Indy has done here, what the team has done here, is created their own game, their own world, their own style. Now you might say, well, this is the team that worked on Chronicles of Riddick. This is the team that worked on The Darkness. And yes, that's true. And those games are very similar, but they've perfected it now. It is almost perfect. And I'll get into the almost part later, but look at this game. Look at it! It looks like the movie. It is that amazing. The graphics are that incredible. And the facial animations, all that stuff that you guys go crazy for, it is here. The presentation is top notch. But let's talk about something that's more important than all of that. The actual game. How does it feel to be Indiana Jones in first person? Well, absolutely fantastic. When the presentation is this good and you're walking down a hallway and the shadow of Indiana Jones, that silhouette flashes up on the wall, it just feels perfect. Now, the game starts off, obviously, this is something that most people will remember, Temple of Doom, the famous scene, but Indiana Jones then wakes up back in college, dreaming about that event that happened. And then the actual game itself begins. Now, this is one of the best examples of a transparent tutorial. What is a transparent tutorial? Where are you maybe asking? Well, a transparent tutorial is when you play through a section of a game and they don't tell you things like, press the A button to jump, press the Y button to do this. You actually just play through a series of events. And then when you're done, you know how to play the game, and then the actual game begins. This is one of the best examples of that. Now, obviously, you're seeing this game. You're watching the footage here. This is from my Twitch stream, so it's not the highest resolution. But let me tell you, this is some of the best fan service. I was looking for the word. It wasn't coming into my head. I'm old. Fan service that I've seen in a long time. And maybe there are not enough fans out there for Indiana Jones anymore because we're all ancient, right? Some of us are dead. But maybe, just maybe, if you're a kid and you're into like action adventure games, you'll say, who's this old guy with a fedora and a whip? And you'll give it a shot because, like I said, if you like first-person games, if you like action adventure exploration, this is one of the best. Out of the blue, folks, they've done it. I feel like I'm in an alternate reality because a first-person Xbox game launched and it's great. There aren't that many problems. It's getting great reviews. What world are we living in? So obviously the graphics are really, really good and they nail the atmosphere. But here's why going first person was the right choice, because the environments, and this is something I didn't even think of when you're watching the films, right? You're going along with Indy to these amazing locations, and the locations are almost characters in and of themselves. And that's why choosing first person was so pivotal for this game, because not only does it shut up the folks who are going to scream and say, well, it's just like Uncharted or it's just like Tomb Raider, it gives you that classic experience. And I promise you, when you were walking later on in this game, you're walking into a tomb and you're just walking through it, and the environmental detail is so immaculate. And like I said, you see that shadow of Indy with the hat. You use the whip for the first time. It's like when you saw a Playboy for the first time in your life and you ran and you hid and then you opened it up slowly and you were like, oh, that's how good it is, folks. I promise you. So now that we've gotten the presentation, the graphics, all that stuff out of the way, you can continue to watch as I speak. The graphics speak for themselves. Let's talk about the gameplay and some of the issues I ran into. So obviously in first person, you're going to get hung up sometimes on objects in the world. There were times I was walking and trying to like hug the wall, and then he just climbs up on a bookshelf for some reason or trips over things or knocks stuff over. And I'm like, I didn't see that because I'm in first person. And then there are times where some of the alternate characters that are hanging around in the world, they don't look really great. And they also just sort of stand around. And I noticed that sometimes they're standing there completely still. And when you get in a certain distance to them, as you get closer, they almost like activate and start doing things. Sometimes they clip through objects. So yes, the typical problems that you have in open world games or semi-open world games are here, but not enough to detract from everything else. And that's key because nothing is perfect. But when enough is really good, you can excuse all the other stuff that isn't. And there's so much that's good here that I don't even really know where to start. We started with graphics. I talked about that. The gameplay. Let's talk about the gameplay. So again, reference games like Thief, reference games like Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay, even some games like Half-Life, the first-person stellar, groundbreaking game. This game just feels great. There are moments in it where the music's really, really subtle, and then it kicks up, and you're going through an environment. You're crouching, you're crawling, you're picking up anything and everything that you can, and that's something that you're going to do a lot of. This is not an action adventure, balls to the wall, shoot everything type of game. You're going to spend a lot of time crouching around, picking up things like brooms, bats, sticks, wood, anything you can find, and you can creep up behind the enemies and knock them out. But then when you get into the melee combat, I didn't know how I was going to feel about this like boxing match where Indy's standing there. The left trigger obviously is a left hook. The right trigger obviously is a right. You can block and you can dodge left and right, but everything is tied to stamina. No, this isn't a Souls-like game. I would throw it out the window if it was. But you have to sort of take your time. When your stamina runs out, you can't block. You have to stop blocking, back away, wait for the bar to build up a bit. So you have to sort of plan out your hand-to-hand attacks. Sometimes it works really well. Other times I was like, I don't like this. But I notice if you take your time, hit the left stick, a left. Hit another one, a left. And then get that right. There's a cadence to it. And the sound effects. You know those sounds when Indiana Jones in the film throws a punch? Those sounds are there. And it just is like, wow, this is just like the films. I remember it. Now, if somebody never saw these films, a young kid, maybe you won't be into it as much as I was. But I feel like if you're a console gamer in this generation, this is one of those games. This is one of those games, absolutely, that you cannot miss. I don't know why I sing everything. I don't know why I keep doing that, but let's continue to talk about Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. By the way, I'm going to keep repeating the gameplay clips that I've shown here because I hate when these professional YouTubers, they show you every single environment in a game because they want to make the goddamn video 20 minutes long so they can put 7 ads in it so they can get ad revenue rather than go out and get a real damn job. So we're going to keep seeing the same stuff over and over again because I care. I want you to experience this stuff fresh. Let me tell you, some of these locations are semi-open. And this is the real shocker in this game because I thought it was going to be rather linear. But you have the main quest type objective in the game in an environment. And then there are so many side activities. And these aren't just tacked on side activities. Trust me when I tell you, some of these side activities take around an hour or 2 hours, and they involve using tons of Indiana Jones movesets. They involve tons of detective work. You feel like Indiana Jones. You really do. They nail it. You want an example? Let me give you one. Early on in the game, you go to Vatican City. Vatican City is huge. You have a main objective, obviously, in Vatican City. That takes almost like 2 hours in and of itself. But there are like 4,700 side things to do. And every single thing you do has a particular character tied to it. And you meet these characters. They have tons of dialogue. They're very expressive. Some of them go with you on these objectives. And like I said, these aren't typical side quests. These are things that are like games in and of themselves. There is so much packed into this game. They loved Indiana Jones. This team absolutely, positively sleeps with Indiana Jones movies in their beds. I don't know what they're doing with them, but they're doing something, and it has to be done in private. Like I said, some games, side quests, what am I trying to say here? Side quests in this game could be games in and of themselves. That's how much is packed into them. For instance, early on, I got to buy a camera from this guy who's a pain in the ass. I don't have enough money to get it. I go on side quest to get some money. I come back there. I visit a priest. He goes with me into a tomb with the camera. Then there's like another side quest where I have to go find, markers throughout Vatican City with the camera. That leads to something so interesting that had nothing to do with the main objective. And that took me like an hour and a half. And I'm just like loving it. I'm thinking, my goodness, how much is packed into just Vatican City? And this is just like the first area that you're going to in this Indiana Jones quest. Look, obviously, no game is perfect. I talked about some of the issues that I had, but ultimately, this is a diamond, and there are a few rough spots. If this looks good to you, if you love a classic Indiana Jones film, not the new crap, I'm talking about the 3 films. If you like those worlds, that environment, that type of storytelling, those characters, the way they emote, the way they move, the way they speak, the way they do things back then in that time period, you are going to love this game. Let's go back to Thief. Let's go back to Chronicles of Riddick, Escape from Butcher Bay. Let's go to the Darkness games. If you like all of that stuff, you're gonna love Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. If you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. If not, I don't care. Thanks for watching the video. See you in the next one.